Turn it down. We'll check that. Sounds like it. Give me a second. 1 second. Give me 1 second. All right, this is the I.S.U.P.K Wednesday law class. Also, remember to check out Commanding GEN.YAHANNA's radio show Monday, 2 a.m. UK time. Also, there's classes Tuesday through Friday. Tuesday, the Brotherhood class. Wednesday, the law class. Thursday, the scripture breakdown class. Friday, the Lashon Kodash. Now, that is 12 a.m. UK time. Also, remember, check out the classes here in the UK also. Monday, we have the history class. Wednesday, the law class. Thursday, the scripture breakdown class. Also, if you're in the UK, we're booking Passover Friday, man. We're booking Passover Friday. Whoever hasn't sent their passports or their money or got in contact with the school, make sure you do that as soon as possible because we're trying to get that done. We are getting it done this Friday because we've tarried long enough. We've waited and waited and waited. So now's the time to book it. So we're all gonna go out there. If we all just, book it together, how we plan to, we all should be on the same flight, all should fly in the same time, all should fly out at the same time. That's what we're trying to do. So just stay on top of that. Also, what other announcement was I going to make? Also, today we're going into a few scriptures. Give me a second. Yeah, we're going to go into a few scriptures on our leaders and whatnot. How our leaders, how they don't know a thing, man. How they make leagues with the other nations. How they act like they act like they're pro-black. They act like they're pro-black. But then you look at the woman they're with, man. It's a white woman. They act like they're pro-black. But then you look at who they worship, man. It's a white god or an Arab god, so forth. They will tell you they're pro-black, but then look at what they do, man. Or they will tell you, oh yeah, we're for our people. But then they're worshiping the god of the Egyptians, the god of the Chinese, the god of the white man. And listen, real leaders represent their own nation and their own nation only. I mean, you'll never see us in the I.S.U.P.K talking about, yeah, we're Israelites, but we believe in the God of the Arabs. You'll never hear us say, yeah, we're Israelites, but we believe in the God of the Chinese. You'll never hear us say, oh, we're Israelites, but we believe in the God of the Egyptians and the God of the Ethiopians and Selassie and all that. You'll never hear none of that. Straight away, man, that should let you know what your leader's about, if your leader's for you or not, man. Just by the people who he reverences. Now, if they reverence a heathen, that means obviously they're learning from the heathen, man. And what do you think they're passing down to you? That same knowledge that they're learning from that heathen. They make out like they're for you. They listen, they're just your leaders is just the face of the movement. But when you look at it, behind the scene, who is it? There's a white man pulling the string somewhere, man. You think your leader, yeah, he's for the people. But who does he report to? Some white man of another nation, man. Not us, though. Listen, us here. We're the only black organization group that doesn't have nobody other than Israelites in here, man. You won't find another group like us on the planet. You won't find another group like the I.S.U.P.K on the planet, man. Who do Christians have in their organization? They have the whole world in there, man. Who do Muslims have in theirs? They have everyone in there that will put on a kufi, man. Chinese, Arabs, they have the whole world in there, man. Who do these Egyptologists have in there? They have almost everyone in theirs, man. Even these fake Israelite groups have everyone in theirs as well, man. Some of them be having Africans in there. Some of them be having East Indians in there. Damn, GOCC be having, when they say white men, GOCC be having full-on rabbis in there with the tzitzit. What do they call them? Tzitzit. Listen, GOCC be having full-on rabbis in there, calling them tzitzits or whatever they call them. Full-on rabbis in there that don't put cheese on meat, man. Full-on Jewish rabbis in there. And they claim, yeah, we're for the people. That's a damn lie, man. Give me Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 1. We're going to go into a few scriptures, man. Also, if you got any questions, just type them in. Lord willing, we can get to those as well.
Lamentations 4:1.
Yeah, give me Lamentations 4:1.
Lamentations 4 and 1. How has the gold become dim?
How is the what?
How has the gold become dim?
It says, how has the gold become dim? Now, what's gold nice? What's gold known for? Being nice and shiny and something people want. Someone's got a nice gold ring. It stands out, man. It said, how has the gold become dim? Meaning you was this gold, man. It was you that stood out. It was you that was shining. It was you that was noticed. You that was doing the right thing. It says, how has the gold become dim? Now, gold is valuable, man. Gold's valuable. Israelites are valuable. So the Bible here is saying, how has the gold become dim? It's like something gold now looking like brass or whatever. It's become dim, meaning the value of it's gone down. It's not looking as shiny and as good as it's supposed to look. Go ahead.
How has the gold become dim?
How's the gold become dim, man? We that gold is talking about. How have we become dim? And I'm gonna tell you how we become dim. We listen to these religious leaders too much, man. They down our shine, man. Go ahead.
How is the most fine gold changed?
It says, how's the most fine gold changed? We that most fine gold. How is the most fine gold changed, man? You know how we've changed? We've gone from being fine gold to sinners, man. We've been changed from princes to drug dealers, man. Our sisters have been changed from princesses to whores, man. Listen, we went from brothers and sisters to them criminals and bitches, man. So lucky. That's what we've gone from. We've gone from princes and princesses to them criminals and murderers and whores and everything. That's how the gold's become dim. Because gold's meant to shine. That was us. We was that gold. Says, how's the gold become dim? Go ahead.
How has the gold become dim? The stones of the sanctuary are poured out.
It says the stones of the sanctuary, man. What's the sanctuary? A sanctuary is like a what? A safe place, right? A sanctuary is like a safe place. We them stones that was in the sanctuary. We them stones that was in the safe place, man. Go ahead.
Plus, the stones in the sanctuary were like
precious.
Precious. On the street anyway. In the sanctuary, in a nice place. They now just run on the street.
Go ahead.
Are poured out in the top of every street.
A what?
In the top of every street.
So how have these precious stones, man, these precious people of the Lord, been poured out where?
In the top of every street.
And we poured out in the top of every street. We went from being in like a safe house protected from the Lord to what?
In the top of every street.
To Handsworth, man. To Aston. To stabbing one another on the block. On the news, all you seeing is stabbing. How has the gold become dim? How have we been poured out on every street? Go ahead.
The precious sons of Zion.
The what?
The precious sons of Zion.
And we the precious sons of Zion, man. But our leaders, they don't teach us that we're precious. They don't teach us who we are, man. Now, if we knew who we was and that we was precious, we would behave better, man. We would understand, all right, then, we held to a certain quality, but our leaders don't give us no standards to keep. So if there's no standards to keep, what are you going to do? You're going to do whatever you like, man. Go ahead.
The precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold.
The precious golds of Zion, comparable to fine gold. We was compared to fine gold, man. Go ahead.
Comparable to fine gold. How are they esteemed as earthen pictures?
How are they what?
Esteemed as earthen pictures.
How are they esteemed as earthen pictures, man? What's a picture? A picture is like a jug. Earthen pictures is like what? Clay. We've gone from gold to clay, man. We've gone from fine gold to earthen pictures, which is what? Just clay, which you just pour out and mold to whatever you want. We've gone from fine gold to earthen pictures, man? That's what that means. Go ahead.
Earthen pictures, the work of the hands of the potter.
The what?
The work of the hands of the potter.
And we've gone from fine gold, man, to the work of the hands of the potter, man. Go ahead.
Verse 3. Even the sea monsters.
That's it. Give me Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. That's not that one, is it?
Well,
no. Yeah, no, sir.
You can't open.
Yeah, no, sir. Yeah, no, sir. So listen, man. We've gone from fine gold to earthen pictures, and our religious leaders hate us, man. Or in some cases, our religious leaders shouldn't be teaching because they don't know anything. Sometimes when a brother tries, but obviously he's completely going off because he doesn't know any better. That's like some of our leaders. Now, you Christian ones, they know better, but there's some brothers who I could say didn't know any better. People probably like who Marcus Garvey and whatnot. They tried, but obviously the Lord just wasn't with them. Go ahead.
God, 17:4.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jeremiah 17:4. And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thy heritage.
Shall what?
Discontinue from thy heritage.
Says we're going to discontinue from our heritage, man. So now we've discontinued from our heritage. Now we don't know who we are anymore. So what do we think we are? We think we're Africans. Who do we say we are? The Egyptians. Yeah. Listen, we think we're the Egyptians. We think we're the Ethiopians. We think Ethiopia is the motherland. Who else do we think we're Mansa Musa? We think we're all these so-called Africans, man. Go ahead.
That I gave thee.
And that what?
That I gave thee.
So now we've discontinued from the heritage that the Lord gave us. So now we think we're who? The Egyptians. And you know what's the funny thing is? The funniest thing about it is there's over 50-something countries in Africa, man. So why do you think you're the Egyptians and the Ethiopians? Why can't you be from Zimbabwe, man? Why aren't you from Congo? Why aren't you from Tanzania, man? Why aren't you from these poor countries? But no, you think the Egyptians, because you know that, okay, then they had a great reign at one time. Think you're the Ethiopians because what, you think Selassie's your god or whatever. Listen, man, out of all the 50-something countries, why do you have to be them ones? And guess what? Another thing is, they all speak different languages, man. If you're African, what's your language, man? What language do you speak if you're African? This is the thing, man. Our people are lost, and obviously we've discontinued from our heritage. Read that again.
God, and thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thy heritage that I gave thee.
And we discontinued from our heritage, man. Meaning what? We've been cut off from who we was, don't know who we are, don't know where we're going, don't know who we're meant to believe in, don't know who we're meant to follow, don't know who our leadership's supposed to be. Because we've been discontinued from our heritage, now all of a sudden, God loves everybody, whether you're black, white, yellow. During slavery, the white man segregated us from him, man. Even he understands, races ain't supposed to be together. But now what do we want to do? Come together, man. Nah, man, the Lord ain't with that. Go ahead.
God, that I will cause thee to serve thine enemies.
I know what?
Cause thee to serve thine enemies.
So now we're serving our enemies, and our same enemies is the ones who our leadership take counsel from, man. These so-called black leaders, what do they do? Take what's it called from the white man? They listen to what he says, man. Really, they're just the puppet on the string. Obviously, the white man knows. All right, then maybe if you put a black face in there, they might be more likely to listen. Listen, man, they done that with Bob Marley, man. Even though Bob Marley's dad was a devil, but they done that with Bob Marley, man. You see how they put Bob Marley in there, and it made everyone become restless because of Bob Marley, man. They done it with that. We're going to talk about Bob Marley in a bit, though. Go ahead.
And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not.
And this is where we are right now, serving our enemies in a land which we don't know, in a strange land, a land where the white man is barbaric, he builds all his buildings high, has the tallest buildings in the world, everywhere is concrete, makes it how it was back when he lived in a cave, man. He makes it exactly like that. He likes to block out the sunlight. He doesn't like usually, usually back then where you would just see obviously the animals roaming and whatnot. Where obviously everyone's thinking the white man puts all the animals in a zoo. He traps everyone. Listen, these are the people that's ruling over us. People that will put an animal in a zoo and then shoot the animal to say, oh, the animal was acting wild, so we had to shoot. It's a wild animal, man. Just leave them where they're supposed to be. Listen, the same way the white man's got us in England is the same way he's got the animals in the zoo. He goes and captures them, puts them in the zoo behind glass. He puts the gorillas and the monkeys behind the glass. Listen, man, they're supposed to be where they are roaming freely. They're supposed to be where they are roaming freely, man. This white man captures everything, man. Like, you see when you watch Pokemon, that's exactly how the white man is, isn't it? He goes and captures animals. He captures animals. He puts them where he wants to put them, man. Puts them in a cage, puts them in a zoo. And then he can't understand why they're acting out of character. Maybe because they're not meant to be in a cage. Maybe because you got a kangaroo in a damn zoo in England when the kangaroo's meant to be where in Australia. Maybe you got a lion when the lion's meant to be wherever it's meant to be, man. Go ahead.
For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger.
And basically, this means we got the Lord mad, man. Especially who we listen to and our religious leaders. Go ahead.
Which shall burn forever.
That just means for a long time, man. Go ahead. It don't literally mean forever and ever and ever. It just means for a long time, man. It's like when your parents say, you know what, you're grounded forever. It don't literally mean forever. One day they'll be like, all right, you can go outside now. Go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord, cursed be the man that trusteth in man.
Says what?
Cursed be the man that trusteth in man.
Says, cursed be the man that trusteth in man. Now, what does that mean? You can't trust in a man of God? Nah, man, it's not talking about that. It's talking about you trusting your pastor, your religious leaders, these people that claim they're going to make you free, get you to freedom. These people that ain't serving God, you trusting in a man who's serving himself, man. That's what that's talking about. Cursed be the man that trusteth in man. Like who? Give me a religious leader our people trusted in.
Religious leader or leader?
Any?
But like David, Lammy.
Yeah, and Martin Luther King, and that's what it's talking about, man. You trusted in them, man. Listen, you trusted in Martin Luther King, man. And what happened to Martin Luther King? He got killed, man. You trusted in Malcolm X. You trusted in them, man. You thought them man was gonna bring you to freedom. You thought Marcus Garvey was gonna bring you to freedom, man. Listen, Marcus Garvey's talking about what? We're going back to Africa. Garvey's talking about going back to Africa. Guess what? You trusted in him. Your black ass is still in England, man. So much for going back to Africa. Your black ass is still right here in England, man, getting the flu every other week because it's cold. And go ahead.
Mark Garvey quit talking about going to Africa and he couldn't say America.
Exactly. Exactly. And he's talking about, oh, he's going to bring you back to Africa. And listen, who do black people trust in? Selassie, man, thinking, you know what? This man's gonna we're gonna go back to Ethiopia. They call it Ethiopia, and all of these things, man. Thinking, yeah, we're gonna go back there. Guess what? Your black ass is still in England. I know people personally that saved up all their money, went back to Ethiopia, and the Ethiopians have robbed them blind. Where are they living in Shashamali or something, whatever they call it? Listen, that's that little town where they're living. That's where they're living. Meanwhile, the Ethiopians are living in the capital, doing it good. They don't even want to mix with you. Listen, black people go there. I'm sure they call it Little Jamaica, innit? I'm sure there's a part they call it Little Jamaica because it's a part where there's so much Jamaicans there. So listen, you mean to tell me you ran from England to go to Ethiopia to live a better life, to be with what your so-called brothers, the Ethiopians that you think is your brothers, and then they just enclose you in a little city, in a little town, and the same people that you knew in England is the same people that's in Ethiopia with you, man. How do I know? I got family that ran to Ethiopia, man. And guess what? The same people they used to go to their so-called 12 tribe gatherings with. You remember them Rasta gatherings in Summerfield?
Yeah,
Listen, them same people, them same old Rastamen that went to them gatherings in Summerfield is them same Rastamen in Ethiopia who's in the same town. They could have just made that same town here. You don't have to run away and believe all these leaders about what is it? What do they call it? The Bobos and the Naya Bingis. Yeah, how do they pronounce it? Bobo, the Bobo Dreads and the Naya Bingis and all of that kind of nonsense. Listen, this was popular back in the 60s. In the 60s, this was popular thanks to Bob Marley, man. Singing all these reggae songs, having a black man think, you know what, the new religion's Rasta, this and that. Listen, everyone's dad was a Rasta back in the 60s. They've done that religiously. Nowadays, most people that got dreads is just what fashion dreads. Nowadays, these ones is just like Lil Wayne and who else? Lil Wayne and the Migos, and these ones is just fashion dreads. But go ahead.
God. And make a flesh his arm.
And make a flesh his arm, man. What does it mean when the Bible says, don't walk a man in the flesh? Meaning what? A man who leans to his own understanding. A man who does what he wants to do. That's what it means, man. A man who ain't walking after the spirit. Whereas you can follow a righteous man that's walking in the spirit of God. But these people that you're following walk after the flesh. So it says, cursed is the man that trusteth in man and maketh arm his flesh. Meaning what? You're making a man who leans to his own understanding, man. You're making him your strength. You're trusting his every move and so forth. You're trusting everything he says. You ain't searched it out. You ain't seen no proof. But you believe this man that's got no money, but he's going to get a ship to take you back to Africa, man. How's that? He ain't even got a compass to show him the way back, man. Means he wants to go there so much. Listen, he can't even sail a ship. You should be asking him, all right, then do you even know how to sail a ship? He wants to take you there, but he can't even sail a ship, man. He don't know the beginnings of sailing the ship. He wants to take you there, but he's got no supplies and doesn't know how long you're going to be on there. Listen, man, you need to have all these questions for your leaders, man. Go ahead.
And whose heart departed from the Lord.
And these men's heart depart from God, especially over money. These religious leaders, they pick up a check, man. They get money off you by lying to you and making you feel good. You pay them, man. You pay for their jets. You pay for everything. You think they care about you and your family? You be poor. You go to church poor. And you've just paid for their car. You've paid for that nice car. You've paid for their heating. Listen, you have to monitor your heating in the winter. Meanwhile, you pay for his heating to be on all year. You pay for his heating and his air conditioning, and you don't even know it. Go ahead.
For he shall be like the heat in the desert.
That's it. And that give me a Hosea chapter 4 and verse 6. Listen. Try your religious leaders, man. Search them out, man. It ain't hard. It ain't hard. First off, just look who else is in their organization. Just look. Most of these places got an organization full of homosexuals in them. You still want to go join it? Listen, anyone telling you to come to church, you should be able to look in that church. Just see a brother in there with a bent wrist and just be like, yo, pastor, how long's that man been here? Let's say about 10 years. That should let you know. All right, this man ain't teaching the right thing, man. Because this man's been there for 10 years and still got a bent wrist, man. That man there still got a bent wrist and he's been there for 10 years, man. On the no occasion should a man have a bent wrist, man. One time, remember that time when I sprayed a fraction, when I sprained it, I think. The doctor said to me, bend it. I said, like, I'm not bending this wrist, man. I said, I'd rather get it amputated before I bend it, man. I said to the doctor, listen, before I bend it, I'd rather get it amputated, man. Go ahead. Ain't bend it. Ain't no bent wrist men in here. Go ahead.
My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge.
The Bible says my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. This is why we're so destroyed, man. This is why we're in every religion, you can find us in there. Every single religion. Why? Because we're destroyed for a lack of knowledge, man. We don't do no research. We don't want to search nothing out. Go ahead.
Because thou hast rejected knowledge.
And because thou hast rejected knowledge, especially our people, at camp, we try to give them a flare. What do they do? Push it away, say, no, man. Listen, especially the older generation, the Jamaicans will say, no, man, we know them things already, man. We know them things. That's what they say, man. They say, how can you teach me? I'm a lot older than you. They say, we know them things, man. We know them things. How much times have they said that to us? They say they know these things, but then they got a spliff in their hand, man. You don't know these things that well, then. They say they know these things, but then they eating pork. But I thought you knew these things. Listen, if you knew these things from long times ago, you should have been in the I.S.U.P.K before me then. If you knew these things, go ahead.
I also will reject thee.
And listen, that's what the Lord said, man. You've rejected knowledge, so I'm going to reject you, man. Meaning the knowledge is there. The knowledge of the Lord is right there. We're in the internet age, man. All you have to do is go on YouTube, go on an I.S.U.P.K video. It's not that hard, but you'd rather not. What would you rather do? Rather watch Power, even though I don't know what the hell that is. You'd rather watch Power. You'd rather watch what other box sets do people watch? You'd rather watch The Walking Dead. You'd rather watch what Empire. All of these, man. It's when you could just click on the I.S.U.P.K video and get the knowledge, but you'd rather not. Go ahead.
Thou shalt be no priest to me.
And listen, man. The Bible says in the other previous scripture, how has the gold become dim? Listen, we've rejected knowledge. The Lord said we shall be no priest to him. What's a priest? Someone that does the service of God. How can you do the service of God if you ain't got the knowledge of God and don't know what the service involves? Listen, the service don't involve smoking weed. The service don't involve a man being a homosexual. So in church, and these Catholics calling themselves priests of God. Listen, man, that's not a priest, man. What you are, if you're in the Catholic Church, is a homosexual and a child molester. You ain't no priest of God. Go ahead.
God, seeing thou hast forgotten the law.
Seeing what? Seeing what?
Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God.
And that's one thing, man. A priest needs to know the law of God, because it's a priest's job to do what? Teach the law and enforce the law, man. How are you going to be teaching something you know nothing about? And this is our religious leaders. They try and teach them things that they know nothing about. They be walking around with the Bible like they know it, and they don't know the Bible. Then some of your other religious leaders be taking this Bible and mixing it with other religious books, talking about, that verse in Islam sounds good. Maybe we can incorporate that in our beliefs. Like the Rastafarians, man, what them East Indians do, that sounds good. Maybe we can incorporate that in our beliefs. And then that's why when you look at Rastas, they look exactly like East Indians, man. That's why their turban is wrapped exactly the same like East Indians. That's why they smoke weed exactly like East Indians. Everything they do is fashioned after East Indians, man. Because their religious leaders, especially, what's his name, Leonard Howell? Yeah. Especially Leonard Howell, he taught us to follow them down to a T. Ganges South is what's the word? Ganges or yeah. And listen, man, these is all Indian words. This is what we picked up from them in the 1800s. Go ahead.
God, seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children.
Now listen, man. The Bible said we've forgotten the law of our God, so he will also forget our children. So guess what? Our children ain't the stones in the sanctuary no more. Where are they now? Poured out in the street, like it said in the book of Lamentations. Our children is poured out in the street, calling themselves K-Trap and all sorts of whatnot. Calling themselves drill this and that. Calling themselves drillers. Calling themselves dip that, meaning what? To stab someone. They even name themselves these things, dip that. Giving themselves all these nicknames, man. Because where are we? Poured out in the street. Go ahead.
God, as they were increased So they sinned against me.
That's it. Give me Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 1. And you know who's to blame for this? The Christian church, man. They're to blame for all this. And your other religious leaders, your black imams, man, dying there. You see the ones with that put a streak of red in their beard? Put a streak of red in their beard. What did they say? It's when they go to war and eat the prophet 8 hearts or something. Some nonsense like that. What did they do? Eat a heart? What they say when Muhammad ate a heart? Some nonsense like that. That's what they say, the blood on his beard. Something dumb like that anyway. You can look it up somewhere. I think something dumb like that anyway. Give me a... Yeah, Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 1.
Leviticus 18 and 1. And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Lord your God.
So this is the Lord's, I'm the what?
The Lord your God.
This is our God. We've got our own God. Why do we want the nation? Why do we want the other nations' gods, man? Why do we want Vishnu and Krishna and Allah and Buddha and I don't know, every other god there is? Why do we want every other god when we've got our own God, man? The living God, that's our God. All these other gods' nations is idols. They don't speak, they don't walk, they can't see. They're just a statue. Listen, you see this bottle of water? If I leave it there, it will still be there in 10 years, man. That's like their idols. They don't move, man. You put it down there, it will still be there in 10 years. Carry on, read on.
After the doings of the land of Egypt.
It says, after the doings of the land of Egypt. So after the Egyptians, because we lived amongst them, the Lord's saying, what we've seen the Egyptians do, we mustn't do that, man. Like the Egyptians were nasty, having sex with their siblings, homosexual acts. Basically, everything you see in the law is what we're not meant to do, is what they was doing in Egypt. The Lord said, I don't want you doing what these people do. But what happens? As soon as we live amongst the heathens, what do? Start to do what they do, man. Start to do what they do. We live amongst the white men. Now LGBT is running rampant now. Everybody in rainbow shirts, because we live amongst the white men. The Lord said, after the doings of these other nations, shall we not do? Go ahead.
God, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do? And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you.
It says, after the land of Canaan, whither I bring you. It says that now because who was in our land when we was going there? The Canaanites, man. Who's the Canaanites today? The what, South Africans? Yeah. So the Canaanites, they was in our land. So the Lord said, after what you see the Canaanites do, don't do it, man. But what happens nowadays? We want to be Canaanites, man. We want to be Africans. Go ahead.
Neither shall ye walk in their ordinances.
Neither shall ye walk in their ordinances. What do? We try and dress like them. So like you pull me up a picture of a kanzu, you spell it Kanzu. Listen, we ain't supposed to dress like them. We ain't supposed to be wearing African clothing. We ain't supposed to be wearing African clothing, man. The Lord said, don't do whatever they do. Pull me up an image of it. Listen, ain't these outfits what you see some of these fake Israelite groups in? Ain't these some of these groups that we see what the GOCC in? I seen a picture of the GOCC at the Passover, and Karafi on the picture was not dressed. I'm a lying. Wasn't the dressed in those? I'm a lying. See, listen. Straight away, man. How listen, your religious leaders, especially these fake Israelite camp leaders, meant to have you following your own culture and customs. And listen, man, this is what they have you wearing. You ain't getting into an I.S.U.P.K Passover dress like this. You ain't making it past the garden, the door in this African clothing, man. This ain't our culture. But what do our leaders like to do? Incorporate African culture with ours, man. They like to incorporate Arab culture with ours. They like to incorporate East Indian culture with ours. And what do you have? The same thing as Christianity. Everybody coming together, man. Everything coming together. Your religious leaders have Christianity, Islam, and your African religions. They have your African religions all coming together as one. So they take parts and parts, and what do they do? They get the African garment, they throw in the African garment. What do they do after that? Get some African men, put them in their camp. What do they do after that? Start banging the drums like African men do. And then what do they do? Read the Bible and be like, oh, the Passover. So what do they do? They throw on that African garment and mix it with the Passover. Then what else do they do? They throw fringes on that African garment and then try and mix that with the Passover. And then before you know it, what you've got is them mixing the Bible with everything that's outside of the Bible. Things which is not in the Bible, they like to try and add it to the Bible. Then before you know it, the Congos become Israelites. Nelson Mandela becomes an Israelite now. Selassie becomes an Israelite now. Now Selassie becomes the love child of Solomon now. Once you start to open the door to these silly little things. Listen, in the I.S.U.P.K, this is why we're so rough and rugged, man. Because we don't mix with nothing. And this is why we stand out against everyone. This is why we don't have no fringes on t-shirts and so forth. Fringes go on your outer garments, man. You don't put fringes at the bottom of your t-shirts. A t-shirt is what? Sleepwear. Yeah, a t-shirt is underwear, man. How you got fringes on your... having fringes on your t-shirt, you might as well put fringes on your drawers, man. It's the same thing. It's all underwear, but go ahead.
Ye shall do my commandments.
The Lord said we shall do his commandments. The Lord gave us a dress code, man, which is our own. He didn't tell us put on no kanzu and no dashiki. No dashiki and a turban like the East Indians. Go ahead. Obviously, ours is a mitri, man. These are put on the damn turban. Go ahead.
And keep my ordinances.
The Lord said keep his ordinances. What's his ordinances? Keep the Lord's order, man. The Lord requires you to do certain things. Keep it, man. Don't be trying to mix everything together. And this is why there's so much confusion in the world, man. This is why every time we at camp, we have to explain we ain't the same as them. I'm a line off here. This is why I have to explain we ain't the same as them. Africans were like, so what? How can I come to these classes? You say, you can't come to these classes. They say, but the other group said they can come. No. That's the other group. We don't do that, man. We don't have no heathens in here, man. This is the I.S.U.P.K under commanding General Yohanna. This is a safe haven for blacks and Hispanics, man. That's what this is. A safe haven for blacks and Hispanics. And this is how we're keeping it forever and ever and ever, man. You ain't going to come up here and see no Chinese man sitting in the seat, man. You ain't going to see no Chinese man sitting in the seat. You ain't going to see us watching no rush hour with no Chinese man. We ain't doing none of that. You ain't going to see us in here with no Ethiopian man talking about you're from the motherland. And listen, let me tell you another thing which is so damn disgusting, man. People think Ethiopia's the motherland. So straight away, what happens? You look at them dirty Ethiopians as better than yourself, man. Have you noticed? People see, oh, well, Ethiopians is the original people. And then you see yourself as, I'm just a slave. I'm not the original people. These Ethiopians is from the motherland. They're the original people of God. We just the slaves. So guess what happens then? Guess what happens after that? Our sisters want to go and get the original man. Our brothers want to go and get the original woman. Our brothers want to go and get the empress. Our brothers want to go and get the African queen. So what's our black woman that lives amongst us? What are you saying then? What is our woman that lives right amongst us? The woman that you grow up with, that you see every day. You don't see her as a princess. You don't see her as anything royal. But what? You ain't never been in Africa in your life, but you're calling their women royal. You're calling their women precious. And you're calling your own people just slaves. This is why we need to know who we are, man. And know how special we are, man. Because guess what? We believe with nothing. We believe with nothing. And then we believe everybody else is something. And because black people are suffering with an identity crisis, this is why they say they're Egyptian. You know why, innit? That's why, innit? Because they're suffering with an identity crisis. This is why black people say we originally from Ethiopia, the motherland, even though Ethiopia is not the motherland. Because we're suffering with an identity crisis, this is why we say, oh, Mansa Musa, Selassie, this and that. This is why we say all these things, man. Because we don't know how great we are. And your religious leaders don't teach you how great you are. Your religious leaders don't teach you how great our black women are, man. How great our young black men are. They don't teach them that they're the greatest people on the face of the earth. They don't teach us that. But what do our religious leaders teach us? The original man is the African man. So what does that make you think? You're not an original man. What does that make you think? I'm just rubbish. I'm just there. I'm just good for nothing. And then what does that make you go and do? It makes you go and take up a disgusting African woman, man. The woman that you was in the ghetto with, you see her as nothing because you see yourself as nothing. So when you get a woman of another nation that you see as better than yourself, you parade her around like a trophy. This is why every black man that gets a white woman, he parades her around like a trophy, man. Listen, when he used to have pictures with a black woman, he crops her out the picture, man. But when he's got a picture of his white woman, she's all up in the picture. She's all up in the picture. Because he sees her as a trophy, man. Go ahead.
Some of these black men, white women here, the white women ain't even look nice.
Exactly.
So I'm thinking, what is he thinking around about? In his mind,
she's beautiful.
She's not Barbie. I'm laughing like, yo, I'm looking like, yo, doesn't know what he's parading around.
Exactly. In their eyes, she's a trophy, man. She's got the blue eyes. Let me just drive around with her in the drop top. And then when they see another black man, they're like, he's jealous that he can't get a white woman. He can't get a white woman like mine. That's what they think in their mind. He can't get a white woman like mine. That's what they think. Listen, we love our Israelite women, man. We love all 12 tribes of our sisters, man. We're going to stand with our sisters to the end. We ain't going to forsake our sisters for no damn Africans, man. We ain't forsaking our sisters for no damn nasty Ethiopians and white women, man. We ain't going to listen to these religious leaders that say, get you a white woman. And you sisters shouldn't listen to these religious leaders that say, get you a white man. Be with your own people, man. Where was you on that?
Verse 4.
Go ahead.
Ye shall do my judgments and keep my ordinances to walk therein. I am the Lord your God.
That's it. Give me Zondervan. Give me Ham in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. Listen, man. We need to love ourselves. And because we don't love ourselves, we love everybody else. Our leaders teach us to love everybody else. If we loved ourselves, listen, it's like the royal family, so-called royals. It's like the so-called royals, man. Do you think Queen Elizabeth would go marry someone that's not part of the royals? And obviously someone's going to say, yeah, Prince Harry, but when you look at their lineage, she's part of the royals as well, isn't it? When you look at their lineage, one of her forefathers goes back to the royals as well. But listen, man, you think Queen Elizabeth would take up any and anyone? We the real royals, man. So why are we taking up any and anyone? It's only right you take up someone that's from the same nation as you. Go ahead.
Ham in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary.
This is Ham in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. Go ahead.
Ham, the youngest son of Noah, probably about 96 years before the flood.
Ham was born 96 years before the flood. Go ahead.
One of the 8 persons to live through the flood.
Which was Noah's 3 sons and their 3 ribs, and Noah and his rib. Go ahead. That was the 8 people. Go ahead.
He became the progenitor of the dark race.
So it says Ham became the progenitor of the dark races. Now, some of our people can't get past this complexion thing. So now they think, oh, Africans are dark. We dark. They try and correlate the whole thing and be like, oh, we're all the same people. Listen, I've seen Bengalis darker than me, man. You don't say they're black. You don't say you're the same people as them. There's some Bengalis darker than me. You don't say they're the same people. But nah, man, you just want to have this relationship to Africa so much. But read the Zondervan Bible Dictionary.
He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes.
Hold on, not the who?
Not the Negroes.
Not the who?
Not the Negroes.
Listen, Ham's not your father, man. Ham's got some sons which is dark skin. But you ain't one of his sons because you're from the lineage of the Negroes. Go ahead.
But the Egyptians.
But the who?
Egyptians.
He became the father of the Egyptians. So black man, you're not Egyptian, man. Tutankhamun and all those pyramids and all those pharaohs. It's got nothing to do with you. You're talking about, yeah, because we was the pharaohs in the... No, man. You was their slaves in the past, man. You was a slave in Egypt. We try and think, oh, we was the pharaohs. And because we're suffering from an identity crisis, you're trying to identify with everything that you esteem as great. Everything that you think is great, you're trying to identify with. Not realizing you're the greatest thing on the face of the earth, man. These Egyptians ain't got shit on you, man. So lucky, they ain't got nothing on you, man. Go ahead.
But the Egyptians, the Ethiopians.
But the what? Egyptians.
But the Egyptians.
And go ahead.
The Ethiopians.
The who?
The Ethiopians.
The who?
The Ethiopians.
The Ethiopians, man. You're not no son of Selassie. Selassie ain't no son of Solomon. You're not related to Menelik. Menelik ain't related to Solomon. The Bible says Ham became the father of the Ethiopians, of the Egyptians. Straight away, that eliminates you from pleading allegiance to being a pharaoh, man. That eliminates you from pleading allegiance to any relations to Selassie, man. Go ahead.
Libyans and Canaanites.
The Libyans and the Canaanites. Now, that erases you from being related to Nelson Mandela, man. That eliminates you from being related to him. That eliminates you from being related to Burger Boy and Feki and what's the other one's name? Mansa Musa, man. The Canaanites is I'm sure the West Africans today fall under the Canaanites, in it. I'm sure they branched out. I can't remember. I'm sure it is. So that eliminates you from being related to these Ghanaians and so forth, man. Go ahead.
God, is it?
You ain't related to them. Give me Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 1. That eliminates you from being related to them, man. Because you're from the lineage of the Negroes. So you're not no Pharaoh. You're not no Ethiopian. You're not no Menelik. You're not no Mansa Musa. Listen, black man. These Africans is dumb as hell, man. They put their babies behind them, man. Have you seen when they walk around with their babies on their back? Yeah, they walk around with their babies on their back, man. Listen, we don't do that, man. That's to me, that just looks stupid. That's how you know a real. Listen, if you're I believe you're African if I see you walking with your baby on your back, man. Listen, we use the sling to the front, man. We have the sling on the front. These Hamites have the sling on behind them. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy 7 and 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whether thou shalt go to possess it.
So this is about the Lord bringing us into the land. Go ahead.
And have cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, and the Canaanites.
Now, all these here is the sons of Canaan, the Hittites, the Girgashites. The reason it mentions these nations is because we was going into the land of Canaan and the sons of Canaan was there. So the Hittites, the Girgashites, today that would be what, your South African nations and so forth. They was in the land of Canaan at the time. So that's why it mentions these nations. Go ahead.
And the Amorites and the Canaanites, Perizzites and Hivites.
And the Perizzites and the what?
Hivites.
Listen, these Africans got AIDS, man. The HIVites, man. Read that again. The what?
And the Hivites.
The HIVites, man. The Lord saying, stay away from these nations, man. It's all in the title. The Hivites, man. The HIVites. Go ahead. That's what I'm gonna call them. The HIVites, man. So lucky. Go ahead.
And the Jebusites.
And the Jebusites, man. Go ahead.
7 nations greater and mightier than
Say
thou.
7 nations greater and mightier than thou. The Lord told us when we go there, don't do what they do. But guess what? Because you know that you see them as mightier than you. You want to be these nations, man. Go ahead.
And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them.
And listen, the Lord was meant to smite these nations, man, when we get there. And what?
And utterly destroy them.
And utterly what?
Destroy them.
We was meant to utterly destroy these nations, not join them. We was meant to utterly destroy them, not worship Selassie with them, not sit down and praise Buddha with them, not sit down and praise white Jesus with them. Go ahead.
And thou shalt make no covenant with them.
And thou shalt what?
Make no covenant with them.
The Bible says we're not meant to make no covenant with them. So why did Marcus Garvey try and make a covenant with the Ethiopians? What is it? The Ethiopian something. Try and make a covenant with the Ethiopians, man, to get land over there so people can go there. The Lord said we shouldn't make no covenant with them. Why are we trying to make covenants with African nations, trying to say, oh, it's our home and we want to go back? Long walk to freedom. What did Buju Banton name his thing? Long walk to freedom. He got that from Nelson Mandela, in it. So listen, man. Why are we naming our? Why are we making covenants with them, man? We ain't meant to do that. Go ahead.
God, nor show mercy unto them.
Nor show mercy unto them. Go ahead.
Verse 3, neither shalt thou make marriages with them.
The Lord said, neither shalt thou make marriages with them. So you ain't supposed to be marrying African women. You ain't supposed to be talking about, oh, she's from a royal lineage. She's from a righteous lineage. She's from this, she's from that. Go ahead.
God, neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give to their son.
Listen, you ain't meant to give your daughters to their sons, man. It's a disgusting thing to see a sister get married to an African man. Do you know how disgusting that is? It's a disgusting thing to know she's going to have Africans in her womb, man. To know that she's going to birth an African man. It's disgusting as hell, man. Don't give your daughters to their sons. Go ahead.
God, thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter thou take unto thy son.
Listen, don't give your kids up to these Africans, man. Your kids ain't supposed to marry them. Your kids is to marry their own people. Go ahead.
For they will turn away thy son from following me.
They will turn away their son from following me. And guess what? Your religious leaders, some of them is married to white women. And now who do we serve? We serve white Jesus now. We serve white Jesus now. Your daughter's given to an African man. She's cooking fufu now. She went from cooking ackee and saltfish to cooking fufu now. She went from cooking cornmeal and rice and oxtail. She went from cooking our beautiful Caribbean dishes to now, instead of making rice and peas, she's cooking jollof rice now. She's eating fufu. Africans eat that. You seen that thing that Africans eat with their hands? Have you seen it? Why is it? What's it called? Egusi. Listen, man. She went from making fried dumplings to eating egusi now. They turned away your children's heart, man, from following the Lord. Even the traditional dishes ain't the same, man. Do you know how disgusting it is when I see people put up two flags? One Jamaican, when kids put up two flags, one Jamaican and the other one Nigerian. You see it? The other one see it. Listen, man. We ain't supposed to mix, man. The Lord don't want us mixing. It's disgusting, man. These Africans think they're better than us. Well, guess what? They ain't better than us, man. We the best thing on the face of the earth. But the reason they think they're better than us is because you make them believe they're better than us. You make them feel special, telling them, oh, the Africans are the original people. To hell with these damn Africans, man.
Right.
We the original people, man. Go ahead.
God, that they may serve other gods.
And now we serve other gods like Selassie now, making their currency stronger. Go ahead.
God. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you.
Go ahead.
And destroy thee suddenly.
And this is what, go ahead.
But thus shall ye deal with them. Ye shall destroy their altars.
You shall what?
Destroy their altars.
The Lord said destroy their altars, man. You see that the things that they sacrifice and then whatever they worship. We destroy that stuff, man. It don't mean nothing. Go ahead.
And break down their images.
And break down their images.
And cut down their groves.
And cut down their groves. But what do we want to do? Worship Selassie, man. Now Selassie, listen, Yahushua is not the line of Judah no more. Ethiopian is now. You've seen it? Selassie, the conquering line of the tribe of Judah. Listen, the Bible said Ham is the father of the dark races, not the Negroes. So how can Selassie be the conquering lion if he's an Ethiopian, man? He would have to be a Negro in order for that to even be possible. And he ain't no damn Negro, man. Look at him. He's the same as every Ethiopian, Somalian. He's the same as Mo Farah. It's all the same. Every Ethiopian looks the same. Looks like an alien. Have you noticed every Ethiopian just looks like an alien? They all look like aliens, man. Listen, the Lord made us good-looking people, man. Listen, Celestia, these Ethiopians' head so skinny. I'm surprised a crown could even fit on Celestia's little skinny head, man. On Celestia's little skinny head. I'm surprised, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, Captain Shop put a video up on the UK page. Or Jamaican women say the British women say I should go into the Africans.
See, and this is the thing, because people look at us as nothing and not the original man and this and that, and Africans is good and Africans is better than Caribbean men. Listen, There's so many Benjamite sisters that prefer an African man now. They say, once you date African men, listen, man, he's just going to fraud you, man. He's just going to be in the paper for fraud, but go ahead.
God. And burn their graven images with fire.
We was meant to destroy these nations, man. Give me a time check so I can quickly just... Yeah, no sweat, carry on.
For thou art an holy people.
For what?
For thou art an holy people.
There you go, man. The Lord said, don't marry these African nations because you're a holy people. What does holy mean? Separate? This is the whole point of not interracial marriage, because we holy and they're garbage, man. We the special people, we the good people. The Lord don't want us mixing. He don't want us interracial marrying. That's why it says, for thou art a holy people. When you read it from top to bottom, this is the conclusion of what the verse 1 is. This is why you're not meant to marry them. The conclusion is right here. Go ahead.
For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God.
Because we are holy people unto the Lord thy God. Go ahead.
The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people.
The Lord chose us to be a special people. So do you know how dumb you are when you're marrying some people that's not a special people? You're marrying just a regular person that the Lord couldn't care less about, man. Someone the Lord ain't made special, man. You're marrying someone that's not royalty like yourself. We are royal people, man. It's time we marry our own. Go ahead.
God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people above all people.
What?
Above all people.
Black man, you're above all people. These Africans ain't above you. The white man's not above you. Chinese people ain't above you. These Ethiopians ain't above you.
God.
These Ethiopians and Egyptians ain't above you. The Lord said what?
Above all people.
You're above all people, man. Get some self-confidence back and understand you're above everyone. Don't be giving your kids over to someone that's beneath them, man. Give them to people of your own kind, because we above all people, man. The Lord wants our race to be pure, man. He wants a black man with a black woman. And when I say black, I mean an Israelite man with an Israelite woman, man. I mean all 12 tribes, man. The Lord wants us with our one another. Go ahead.
That are upon the face of the earth.
Yeah, listen, unless the Ethiopians are floating above the earth, they're not better than you, man. Unless the Egyptians are floating above the earth, they're not better than you, man. We are above all people that are upon the face of the earth, and they're on the earth, and you're better than them. And it's time you know it. We need to start giving our loves to all these other nations. Go ahead.
Verse 7, the Lord did not say his love upon you.
That's it. And give me Tobit 4 and 12. Listen, man. Yeah. Listen, man. We those special people, man. Give me Tobit chapter 4 and verse 12. I mean, what I'm saying to you, I ain't lying. You think these other nations love you? They don't love you, man. They love your money. They love your money.
God.
They love to have sex with you, but they don't love you, man. You get me?
Tobit 4 and 12. Beware of all whoredom, my
Beware
son.
of all whoredom, my son. Go ahead. This is a man giving instructions to his son. Go ahead.
And chief, you take a wife of the seed of thy father.
Hold on. Do what?
Take a wife of the seed of thy father.
Says take a wife of the seed of thy fathers. Meaning what? Take a wife of the seed of your fathers that descends from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, it doesn't mean if you're a Benjamite, you have to marry a Benjamite. It says your fathers, on about your forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Take a wife that's on the 12 tribes line. That's what it's talking about. Go ahead.
And chief, you take a wife of the seed of thy fathers, and take not a strange woman to wife.
And what?
Take not a strange woman to wife.
The Bible says, take not a strange woman to wife. What's a strange woman? A woman of another nation, man. The Bible says, take not a strange woman to wife that's of another nation. Go ahead.
God, which is not of thy father's tribe.
Which is what?
Not of thy father's tribe.
The Bible says we ain't meant to marry a woman that ain't of our father's tribes, man. That is not of the 12 tribe chart. But Karafi, guess what we do? We want to marry African women. Hold on, let me hit you with something, man. You got reggae singers here that talk. Listen, let me hit you with something. You got brothers that live in Jamaica and they're singing songs, rapping. She's royal, yeah. What is it? Nubian. My Nubian queen. And Nubians are what? African. So you mean to tell me this black man in Jamaica bypasses all his sisters in Jamaica and talks about she's royal, yeah, she's royal, my Nubian queen. I want and I need her in my life. So he wants to skip all his sisters and go get him an African. And this is a thing, man. These Nubians ain't royal, man. These Nubians is Africans, man. But Taurus Riley, that's the song. What is it? She's royal. She's not royal, man. He said, my Nubian queen. What he should have said is my Israelite princess, man. She's royal. Listen, I'm gonna make a version on the same beat, man. And mine is gonna be like my Israelite princess. She's royal, man. Soon you're gonna be able to buy it on iTunes. Is it Apple Music? You can buy it for I'll get it, pull it on Apple Music for 79p. You can buy it on Apple Music, iTunes. You can buy it on Spotify. You're gonna see my version on there. Just put my name in. Israelite princess, she's royal. That's gonna be my version, but I read that again.
Beware of all whoredoms, my son, and chief to take a wife of the seed of thy fathers, and take not a strange woman to wife.
Says take not a strange woman to wife, man. Now Taurus Riley in that song, what's he teaching our young black men? A Nubian woman is royal. So what's the sisters in Jamaica then? The ones that's on your doorstep. Coffee, what are they? The ones that's on his doorstep? What does that make them? I bet you this man's never been to Ethiopia in his life. Nubians is Ethiopians, right? Egyptian, yes, Egyptians, yeah. This man's probably never seen one in his life. But she's royal. Where did he learn that from, man? Where did he learn that from? I want to know where he learned that from. Go ahead.
Which is not of thy father's tribe, for we are the children of the prophets. No, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
For we are the what?
Children of the prophets.
For we the children of the prophets. So how are you saying these Nubians is royal and she's royal, my Nubian queen? How's it singing that, man? Those words are so disgusting to hear, man. The thing is, it was a nice little melody as well, until he ruined it with that part, man. So what's the sisters that you live amongst, man, that you grew up with? Go ahead.
Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, my son, that they all married wives of their own kindred.
Listen, man, our forefathers, they knew there was royal, man. They didn't say that Nubian women was royal. They married wives of their own kindred, man. They married their own sisters. Go ahead.
Of their own kindred, and were blessed in their children.
And we're what?
Blessed in their children.
And we're blessed in their children, man. That's what we need to do. From there, give me Proverbs chapter 5 and verse 18. So listen. All these songs Garnet Silk's making about what? Hello, Mama Africa. Hello, Mama Africa. How are you? Listen, Africa's not your mama, man. Africa's not your motherland, man. But especially Benjamites, there's this African spin on it that because they're dark skinned, we're all close to Africa. Go ahead.
Proverbs 5 and 18. Let thy bounty be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth.
It says rejoice with the wife of thy youth, man. What's the wife of, what does it mean by the wife of thy youth? Meaning what? Our culture is what? Kids will grow up together. When kids grow up, and obviously when they grow older, that's going to be his rib. Listen, man. That's how our nation's supposed to be. It's meant to work like that. Who are you amongst your own people? It says from the wife of thy youth, meaning the Israelite sisters you see every day, man. Our own nation. But Taurus Riley missed this precept. He's around his nation the whole day. But then wants a Nubian. That's so damn disgusting, man. Read the scripture. This scripture is telling you take a wife of your youth, man. Usually, who are you around? Your own people, right? Usually, when you're young, you're around your own people. The Lord's saying, take a wife of your own people, man. Go ahead.
Let her be as the loving hind.
Let her be as the loving hind, man. Go ahead.
And the pleasant roe.
And the pleasant roe, man. Go ahead.
God. Let her breast satisfy thee.
The Bible says, listen, marry your wife, a wife of your own kind, man. Let her breast satisfy you, man, at all times, man. But instead, what do you want to do? Take up these disgusting malnutrition Ethiopian women, man, whose bones is showing through their skin, man. That's what you want to take up, man. The Lord said, marry a sister of your own kind. Go ahead.
All the rest of them, all the young girls flock to them just to use them for their money.
Exactly.
Like if you're retiring, because you're using your retirement money that you work for in all your life. As an Ethiopian girl, 80, you can take the shit.
Exactly. And they marry them and they feel special, like, oh, my Nubian. And then what do black men do? Start to worship women because they see this woman as, oh, she's one of the original people. So what do? Start to bend over backwards because they think she's too good for them. Go ahead.
And be thou ravished always in her love.
That's it. From there, give me pull up on YouTube, type in Bob Marley talks about Selassie. Listen, I'm gonna show you something, man. Listen, your religion, Leonard Howell and Bob Marley and Marcus Garvey and all these leaders from back then is to blame for why our people are in the condition they're in, man. Should be a little 1 minute clip. Is it? Yeah, that one. Yeah. Listen, look at Bob Marley, man. This is Bob Marley basically saying Celeste is God, man. This is how he got the rest of us on board with the dreads. Go ahead. There's no sound. Yeah, no sound. No, this is Bob Marley talking about Celeste, man. Who got the rest on board near enough. He was like the face of the rest of the movement, innit? Because it's the
movement that Haile Selassie is no longer with us in physical form. What at the present day is the movement and the energy and the force that keeps the rest of the movement keep going at this point?
What answer to the question is that no half tree son of I.S.U.P.K. And Africa, my still a father. I'm search and find out who this is Jesus Christ. It's kind of modern day Bible. See him revealed as Jesus. So that's what I need. You want to God Almighty now. So what is mother studying and I know, you want to learn like different likes for instance. So what is happening today? You know, and what is happening today? Who make the laws of what is happening today? And some of them died from the 19th century. But the people still run off of the same 18th century die. You know what I said? No, you know, his mother's different. His mother's still God Almighty.
See, you hear that?
I'm going to show you some this image worship.
Yeah, that's it on that. Now, did everyone hear that? Listen, Selassie said, no, not Selassie. What's his name? Bob Marley said, everyone said the sound is low, but basically in that video, Bob Marley was saying Selassie is God Almighty. Selassie is God. That's what Bob Marley was saying. Selassie is God. Now, Selassie is a big musician, so what's going to happen? A lot of people's going to listen to him, right? A lot of people's going to listen to him that he's God. Listen, I got a book because I'm a man that carries books. I'm a man that carries books. Read page 288 for me. It's the highlight parts. Listen, in there, Bob Marley said that Jesus, what's his name? Yeah, he said that Selassie is God. Selassie is God Almighty, man. So he taught black people that Selassie is God. Read this book for me, because apparently he said it right there. So Bob Marley said Selassie is God. Read page 288 for me.
The book, the first Rasta, page 288. By 1979, the overworked singer was already sick with cancer.
So this is when Bob Marley sick with cancer. So at one stage, Bob Marley was saying Celeste is God. You know why? So he could get black people's money, get black people on board, get black people to support his records, trick black people into worshipping Selassie. Go ahead. He said Selassie was God in that video. Go ahead.
In 1980, in a state of collapse, I was afraid he was about to die.
So Bob Marley thought he was about to die, but after he was stricken with cancer. Go ahead.
Bob Marley was baptized into the Ethiopian
Go on.
Orthodox Church.
Hold on. Bob Marley was what?
baptized into the Ethiopian Orthodox Church.
So Bob Marley, that told you about Rasta, was baptized where?
In the Ethiopian Orthodox Church.
Bob Marley, which told you about Rastafarianism and to be a Rasta, was baptized in where?
Ethiopian Orthodox Church.
He was baptized in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, man. That worships white Jesus. They worship white Jesus in that church, which means Bob Marley all this time believed in white Jesus, but sold you this Rastafarian dream to help sell records and to help get his name out there. Go ahead. Read on.
In a New York hotel room, he had been in secret.
And listen, he got baptized in the New York hotel room so no one would know. And he was the church's benefactor. Bob Marley was sponsoring this church. Bob Marley was funding this church. Meanwhile, he's telling you Bond Church and Ethiopia and Selassie and Rastafarianism. He's telling you all of this. But then he's getting baptized in church, man. Go ahead. He's worshiping white Jesus behind closed doors in secret. Go ahead.
He had been its secret benefactor in Jamaica for years.
And he was their secret benefactor in Jamaica for years. Is there anyone on that page in the highlight part? Go ahead.
For years, financing the construction of his church.
And he financed the what?
The construction of his church.
Bob Marley financed the church, man. Bob Marley financed the church. Meanwhile, he's selling you a dream about Rasta. You're talking about Rasta, means a Rasta, man. And Bob Marley's financing the church, man. Meanwhile, you're a Rasta, man. Bob Marley's financing the church that you hate so much. Bob Marley's financing the church that you hate so much. Go ahead.
And when he died in 1981, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church was to preside over his burial.
Hold on, those to what?
Preside over his burial.
So after he died, this is what Bob Marley wanted after he died. Go ahead.
In a gorgeous ceremony.
In a gorgeous ceremony. That's what he wanted after he died. Go ahead.
Of Coptic chants in American geese, streaming incense and rows of priests holding beautiful carved silver crosses.
Hold on, Bob Marley wanted them to hold what?
Silver crosses.
So listen, Bob Marley is teaching you about Rasta, but when Bob Marley died, he wanted priests holding crosses. And everybody knows the cross relates to Christianity, but he's telling you about Rasta, who you're meant to hate so much. You're meant to hate Christianity so much. Bob Marley told you Celeste is God. But when Bob Marley died, he wanted what there?
Silver crosses.
Bob Marley wanted Christian priests with silver crosses. He didn't want Rasta men with spliffs there. He didn't want you with a spliff there. He wanted men with silver crosses. Bob Marley betrayed you, man. Bob Marley lied to you, man. He sold you a Rastafarian dream that didn't exist, man. Bob Marley really wasn't a Rasta, man. He just told you he was so he could get record sales. Meanwhile, he wanted a white man's ceremony when he died, man. Read the next part on the next page, which is highlighted.
For the Rastas, however, it was a blow.
No. It says for the Rastas. So now the Rastas didn't know at the time, but after they found out, it says for the Rastas, it was a blow, meaning these Rastas were struck. Go ahead.
Their ambassador, their prince, had gone.
Hold on, they're who?
Their ambassador.
So listen, Bob Marley was these Rastas' ambassador. Bob Marley was these Rastas' prince. Go ahead.
Had gone to die in the arms of Jesus.
Hold on, he went to what?
Die in the arms of Jesus.
So Bob Marley was preaching Selassie is God and Rasta and Rasta and Rasta. And then he went to die in the arms of Jesus because he wanted all them crosses. He went to die in the arms of Jesus, which lets you know Bob Marley lied to you, man. Bob Marley beguiled you, man. Bob Marley told you about Rasta, and died in the arms of a white man. Meanwhile, you served him and loved him, man, and he died in the arms of Jesus. What's the time? For time's sake, I want to get some more from that book. Yeah, give me page chapter 98. We're gonna go more into the book. Bob Marley lied to you, man. Bob Marley's father was also a white man, so obviously that's why he lied to you. He's a devil, man. That's why he lied to you. But I guarantee you, this history, most people didn't even know. They thought Bob Marley was Rasta, but he weren't, man. Give me page chapter 98. Yeah.
Page 98. The few Negroes who were present at their land seemed rather pleased and mingled with them.
So now, this is at the time the East Indians came to Jamaica. Now we're going to show you the link between Rastafarianism, Ethiopianism, and them trying to mix it all up. Go ahead.
Gone. They were transported to a lot plantation by horse and buggies and greeted by Jamaicans who often offered them food to drink.
So us being us, we're offering these heathens food and drink, these East Indians that obviously was indentured servants that came over to Jamaica in the 1800s. Go ahead. The ones that are thriving over there right now, man. Go ahead.
Relations between coolies and Jamaicans never became antagonistic. The limited number of women among the Indians expedited a quick absorption into the black population.
And they basically mixed in with us. Go ahead.
As a child in Clarendon...
Is that the highlight part? Go ahead.
Howell had contacts with this community. It is possible he like many Jamaicans, copied their habit of smoking marijuana.
Hold on, it is what?
Possible. Like many Jamaicans, copied their habit of smoking marijuana.
So this is where black people learned to smoke marijuana from. And this is where Rastas picked it up from. Because Leonard Howell was basically the leader of the Rasta movement, you could say. And he loved Indian culture. And the East Indians came to India. No, the East Indians came to Jamaica in the 1800s with marijuana. And what did he do? Like I said earlier, they mix it all in with their culture. So this is how marijuana got mixed up with Rastafarianism. This is how marijuana got mixed up with it. This is how turbans got mixed up with it. And this is why East Indians and Rastas have a lot in common, even the same diet. Have you noticed all Rastas are meant to be vegetarian? Who else don't eat meat? These East Indians. And who did these Rastas learn it from? They learned it from the East Indians that was around them. Go ahead.
Ganja is a Hindi, Urdu.
Ganja is an Indian word, man. Go ahead.
For cannabis sativa, and it generally...
And it means what? Cannabis what?
Or sativa.
Yes, a sativa. Go ahead.
And it's generally accepted that successive wave of Indian immigrants introduced marijuana use to the island.
And now these Indians introduced marijuana to the island. We didn't know about these things, but what do we like to do? Like the Bible says, don't mingle with the nations, destroy everything that they try to bring to us, and don't follow them. Now we learned weed smoking from them. Go ahead.
But Howell probably drank their sacred bang.
And Howell probably drank their sacred drinks, their so-called sacred drinks that used to drink to their God. Go ahead.
Above all, he was probably most impressed by the power of Hindu culture.
He was what?
Impressed by the power of Hindu culture.
So really, Rastafarians ain't nothing but Hindus, man. Rastafarians ain't nothing but Hindus. Rastas was impressed by Hindu culture. Go ahead.
God. They drew from their daily contact with their gods.
And he was impressed by how they used to pray and worship their God. Go ahead.
God. After attending to personal and family chores, the priest among them would sit down with the children and adults and read Ramayana.
And this is what they used to read, a book called Ramayana. Go ahead.
Initially, these activities were restricted to Indians only.
So these activities back then, it was restricted to Indians only. Only the East Indians could take part in it. Go ahead.
But as friendly neighborhood contact involved with Afro-Jamaicans, the two cultures began to join each other.
The two what?
The two cultures began to join each other.
Says over. First, it was restricted to the East Indians, but after, the two cultures began to join each other. Now, these two cultures joined Leonard Howell's Rasta movement and the Hindus. And then what do you get? All of it as one, as Rastafarianism. That's how it all come together. Go ahead, read on.
Almost regular intervals and few individuals in the Indian community would perform a secret Kali Puja, selected friends and relatives. And they would perform. This is when they used to smoke weed to their God. They used to perform it. Go ahead. Selected friends and relatives were invited. And selected friends and relatives was invited. So the Indians would invite selected friends, meaning the friends being the niggas that's living amongst them. Go ahead. To an unknown spot. And they'll do it in secret. Go ahead. Where a ram was sacrificed with a single stroke of a machete amid loud and chanting mantras invoking goddess Kali.
Doing what?
invoking goddess Kali.
So they would chant invoking their goddess Kali, because that's what the East Indians worship. So they would chant. Go ahead.
The Rasta today.
Exactly.
With the bang their drum and chant.
Exactly. Chant and smoke weed. Go ahead. It's the same thing. This is where it all came from. Go ahead.
After certain ceremonies which involve smoking ganja, the congregation
Which in what?
involves smoking ganja.
So in order for them to worship their god Kali, they used to smoke ganja and get high out of their mind. And what do Rastas do today? Smoke ganja and get high out of their mind, man. Because Leonard Howell mixed two cultures together. He brought what? He brought his beliefs, a bit of Ethiopianism, a bit of Blackism with Hinduism. Go ahead.
After certain ceremonies which involve smoking ganja, the congregation will return to the home of the host.
After smoking ganja, they would return to the home of the host. After they learned to smoke ganja, this is where we learned it. Go ahead.
And shouting, J. Kali.
And shouting what?
J. Kali Mai.
And what do it says J.K. Kali something. What was the shouting?
J. Kali Mai.
And guess what? What do Rasta shout today? Jah. That's what Rasta shout today. Jah. That's what. Listen, Rastas get higher out of their mind and start shouting Jah. Listen, if you got Rasta parents, you'll be in your bed sleeping. You just smell some weed and hear Jah. Oh, I'm not lying. This is where they learnt it, man. They learnt it from the East Indians. Go ahead.
Drinking up bang, marijuana.
And used to drink, man. Weed, tea, and so forth. Go ahead.
Smoking ganja and hailing the goddess.
Go smoking ganja and what?
And hailing the goddess.
And used to smoke ganja and hail the goddess. What do black people say when they're smoking? I'm just holding a meds. Holding a meds, what? You're meditating and you're calling on the god Kali, the East Indian god. So everyone who smokes weed, really, you're just worshipping the East Indian god, not knowing what you're doing, because that's who we learned it from. And this is why ganja is big, especially amongst the Benjamites. Go ahead.
Drink, and dancing and singing.
And dancing and what?
And singing.
And dancing and singing, man. Rastas love a party with weed and ganja. That's what they bring, man. Ganja's the main ingredients at their party, man. Go ahead.
Preceding the dinner of curry goat.
Preceding the what?
The dinner of curry goat.
So we also, obviously, eating curry goat is lawful, but obviously, when you're around certain cultures, you learn certain things. Like obviously in Trinidad, they eat what? Roti. So obviously, amongst them, Indians ate a lot of curry. That's where we picked it up. But eating curry goat is lawful, but smoking's not. Go ahead.
Curious Afro-Jamaicans.
And then the wheels curious. We are nosy people that want to take part in everything, man. It says curious Afro-Jamaicans. Go ahead.
Would always eavesdrop at a distance.
And we would eavesdrop at a distance. Just watch them do it. Go ahead.
At hidden places. Some of them would join the festive.
And listen, then we started joining the festives as guests. We started joining in their worship. Started joining in their smoking weed. At our time, it was just a few of us. Now the whole nation gets high. Go ahead.
It is likely that Howell, the secret child, the treetop observer, knew something of the Kali Pujas. As a sailor, he met many Indian fellow workers.
Is that the highlight part? Yeah, carry on.
He later had children by an Indian woman.
Hold on, he later what?
Had children by an Indian woman.
So listen, this leader that was meant to be the leaders of the Rastas, Leonard Howell, he later had children by an Indian woman, which means he learned all the Indian culture in the world. What was I saying earlier? That your religious leaders, I was saying that your religious leaders marry heathen women and take on their culture, man. He did the same thing. He got an Indian woman. Go ahead.
And was an admirer of Mahatma Gandhi.
And he was an admirer of Mahatma Gandhi. Go ahead.
He shared Hindu fashions of his ceremonies.
He shared what?
Hindu fashions.
He shared Hindu fashions, man. He done the ceremonies similar to the Hindus do. He also said the dress code, that's where the turban and everything comes from. Go ahead.
Of his Hindu contemporaries.
His Hindu contemporaries, man. Contemporaries is what people that are alive at the same time as you, innit? So he learned Hinduism from them. Go ahead.
Meanwhile, in Jamaica, Howell absorbed teachings from the Indians.
He did what?
Absorbed teachings from the Indians.
Remember when I was saying to you, religious leaders learn from heathens. Leonard Howell absorbed teachings from the East Indians. And this is why Rastas and Hindus have a lot in common. What page you on?
That's,
yeah, carry on. Read the highlighted part, carry on.
The answer to every inquiry about Lord Rama and Krishna was that they were God incarnate. So listen, now you're going to find out how Selassie came about being black people's God. It said that Krishna was who? God incarnate.
Says Krishna was God incarnate. What does incarnate mean again? Basically, you're God and you come in the flesh. So they said that because Krishna lived at one time, right? He was a man. So they say that Krishna, East Indians believe that Krishna is God, but he came as a king on the earth. So in East Indians taught that Krishna was God incarnate. Go ahead.
Kings of India.
And they believe that Krishna was kings of India, God incarnate. Go ahead.
If not, daily exposure to service, music, dances, etc.
And listen, they worshipped him and music, dance, and singing. Go ahead. Because they said Krishna was God and he was incarnate. He came as a king. Go ahead.
If not, daily exposure to services, in praise and honor of God incarnate.
So they praise Krishna as God incarnate, saying, yeah, Krishna is God. Go ahead. That's what the East Indians said. Go ahead.
Resulted in creation of a unique spiritual and emotional niche and vacuum among the forerunners of Rastafarians.
As after what?
Rastafarians.
So listen, they said that Krishna was God incarnate. Go ahead, read on this more. Go ahead.
Their minds searched and their hearts craved an African potent Lord. Their hearts craved an African potent Lord like Rama or Krishna.
So listen, these lot was learning from Indians. Indians had Krishna, that was a God incarnate, that they said, because Indians believed that Krishna was God that came as a man. They believe he was their God and he was their king. So he was their God and king. So black people saw this and black people said, we need a king and a God. Go ahead. Because they want it to be like the East Indians. Go ahead.
Just like Indian cricket fans.
And they said, we need one just like the Indians. Go ahead.
Wish for an Indian Michael Holden.
Go ahead.
Joseph Hibbert Howell.
Is that the highlight? The highlight part? Yeah, go ahead.
Companion in St. Thomas confirmed to Mansingh that after learning about the Hindu God incarnate, Rama, Krishna, and Buddha, Howell was convinced that every nation had its own God.
So listen, they sinned that and they was convinced Krishna's a God and a king that was on the earth. They was like, oh, us as black people, we need our God and our king on the earth. We need our God and our king on the earth because they believed that Krishna was a God and king, the East Indians. Black people wanted their own one. Go ahead.
Jesus for whites.
So they said the white people have Jesus as their king and their God. Go ahead.
Krishna, Buddha for the Indians.
And they said the Indians, they have their king and their God who's Krishna, who they worship. Go ahead.
And someone in Africa about whom he did not know.
And they said, okay, we must have a king and a God who's in Africa. I mean, they've got Krishna, that's God incarnate. Where's our king? That's God incarnate. That's what they was asking. Go ahead.
For the Africans, when Ras Tafari was crowned, Hibbert told Mansingh, Africans realized that his title given to him by the whole world makes him a god. So listen, now because East Indians had Krishna as a king and God, once Selassie got crowned as a king, black people was looking to copy what the heathens had. You get it now, innit? Black people was looking to copy what the heathens had. So that's how this whole Selassie's God came about, because they learned from East Indians, and East Indians believed that Krishna was God. So black people were searching for their God incarnate, and they realized they didn't have one. So as soon as Selassie got crowned as a king, they said, this man right here must be our God incarnate. And then that's why he got the name. This is God. This is our king. And that's how so-called Haile Selassie became the king of kings. This is how he became the Lord of lords. Because black people learned from East Indians and wanted the same thing that the East Indians had. Because the East Indians had their God, their Krishna, their God king. Buddha had their God king. The Buddhists had their God king. And black people wanted one. So the first black man that they seen as a king, they said, yep, this must be our God. This is our God king, because every nation's got one. This is our one. So that's how Selassie came about as being God. This is how Selassie came about as being Christ in his kingly character. This is how Selassie came about as being God incarnate. That's how it all began. Read on. God. Given to him by the whole world makes him God.
What is
just
it?
Like Ashoka, Buddha, Rama, Krishna, after the coronation of Rastafari, African had a God king.
Hold, Africans had a what?
A God king.
Just like after who?
Just like after Buddha, Rama.
So
Krishna.
just like after Buddha, Rama, Krishna, Indians had a God king. Buddhists had a God king. White people had a god king. Black people saying, where's ours? So once Selassie became king of Ethiopia, black people believed, okay then, we black, this correlates to us. We now have a god king, not realizing we ain't even Ethiopian, man. But our people are so dumb. Anything black, they want to identify with. So they believe that's how Selassie came about being God. This is the origins of it. Go ahead.
And a promised land.
And they believe, and that's how Ethiopia came about being the promised land, because they believe they had a black king from Ethiopia, and he's gonna deliver them. They believe that he was gonna deliver them. Go ahead. Was that the end of that highlight part? Yeah, read this part now. Huh? So lucky I don't even share books. So lucky I gotta keep these books locked in the cupboard. Go ahead.
Indian elders.
No. That's it. And that's the origins of how Selassie became known as being God. That was the origins of it. So if you ever understood how it came about, that's how it came about. Go ahead.
Indian elders were known. Indian elders were shown the same respect as African exchanges.
What verse? 101. Yeah, no sir. What's the time for time's sake? 7 minutes. We got what? 7 minutes. That's it. Damn, time gone. Yeah, read on. Quick. I got a few more we need to fly through. Go ahead.
Took place around the chalice, the cold water, cooled coconut shell,
go ahead.
ganja pipe, dreadlocks with some Rasta elders.
Now. This is how dreadlocks came about. Now we're going to show you how dreadlocks came about. Go ahead.
Remember as Zagabi from the Hindi.
From the who?
From the Hindi.
So listen, dreadlocks first began with East Indians, man. East Indians had dreadlocks. Listen, this is the history of it. This is how it began. Go ahead.
Were possibly inspired by Indians.
Listen, dreadlocks was inspired by Indians. So because this Leonard Howell loved East Indians, like I said, he put all beliefs together, all customs came together, Indian culture, Jamaican culture, he put it all together. He put a bit of Ethiopian because Selassie was black. He put some blackism in there, some Africanism in there, East Indian culture in there. Go ahead.
Whose religious merchants whose presence in Jamaica was confirmed by a 1910 photograph. Some people relate to the dreadlocks to published photo of Selassie's tribal guards.
From the what? The 1910 photo. Listen, that's the first time they ever seen dreads, man, in 1910. So let me say one thing. How the beat did Samson have dreads, man? Samson didn't have no dreads, man. When it talks about locks in the Bible, it means braids. But they like to correlate all of it. Read that for me and to see any questions on the YouTube or anything. Yeah, go ahead.
Some prefer to relate to dreadlocks published in a photo of Selassie's tribal guards, the mountain.
And listen, this is one right here. This is where dreadlocks came from. Dreadlocks came from here. This is the origin of it. Rastas didn't have dreadlocks at this time, but once the East Indians came out after the 1800s and they loved East Indians, they started to put every culture together. Go ahead.
Or to the Maasai braids, but the Rasta vegetarian diet likely has Hindi origin.
Hold on. The Rasta vegetarian diet came from Indians as well, because Indians don't eat meat. They believe cows are sacred. So what now? Rastas don't eat meat. I is vegetarian. That's what they say. I is vegetarian. That's what they say. They don't eat meat. Who did they learn it from? The East Indians, man. That's why East Indian culture and Rastafarianism is the same thing. It's so close because they both learn from each other. Is there anyone in the highlighted bit or that's it? Go ahead.
But since traditional Indian dietary science holds that ganja makes the body hypersensitive to toxins associated with alcohol
and listen, don't Jamaicans, don't Rasta say that? Yo, watch what you eat. I don't eat meat. It's there. Go ahead.
Consequently, cannabis cultures like Indian and Rastafari tend to avoid these.
And listen, man, they avoid the same things because they're both the same. East Indians and Rastas is both the same, so they both just smoke cannabis. And what's it? Is there anyone on the highlighted part? That's it. Give me go to page. What page right now? Go to page. Give me Numbers chapter 6 and verse 5 and go to page 229. What's it? Yeah, no, sir. Listen, we might have to go. Listen, we might have to go over by at least 5 minutes. We're gonna go over by at least 5 minutes. Obviously, I gotta give you this information today because I don't know the next time when I'm gonna do it. See, and look at him with dread smoking weed. He's smoking that weed to his God. Rasta smoke that weed, and Rasta shout, Jah, Rastafari. And that's what they shout, and they start bowing down with a spliff in their mouth. That's where it comes from, man. That's where it all comes from. Give me Numbers 6 and 5, and then give me page 229 in that book.
Numbers 6 and 5. All the days of his vow of his separation, there shall no razor come upon his head.
No, it says no razor shall come upon his head. This is when you make a Nazarite vow. Rasta say the Nazarites vow, right? Now see, and now they've mixed being a Nazarite because they've seen the word locks. They've mixed being a Nazarite with East Indian culture, with turbans, with weed. They've mixed it all. Go ahead.
God, until the day be fulfilled in which he separated himself to the Lord, he shall be holy.
He shall be what?
He shall be holy.
So listen, how you're a Rasta, it says you can't drink, but Rastas is always drinking white rum, right? Listen, how are you holy and took an oath to the Lord and you're getting high out your goddamn mind, man? You're smoking weed to other gods and you say you're a Nazarite. Listen, you ain't even worshipping the right God. How are you a Nazarite, man? Really, you're an East Indian, man. You're an East Indian wannabe. And that's why when the New Testament talks about Gentiles, this is who it's talking about. Your Rastas that follow after East Indian culture. Go ahead.
And shall let the locks of his head grow.
And shall let the what?
Locks of his head grow.
Have you got it in the blue letter Bible where it says shall let the locks of his hair grow? So Rastas say, yo, my locks, Rastas will say their locks. Rastas will say, oh, but let's see if Samson's locks is the same as these Rastas' locks, which is just a haven of nits, and dirt and mold and everything else, man. See, pull up locks in there. So lucky we're gonna go over by a little bit. You're cutting into Karafia's gym time, so lucky we're gonna go over by a little bit. Yeah, get it. Is it? Yeah, read that for me. Now in Numbers it says, "Of Nazarite vow, you let the locks of your hair go." Now we're gonna go see what the word locks means in the Bible.
Locks, makar, the pa means braid.
Hold on, it means what?
Braid.
It means what?
Braid.
Listen, locks in the Bible means braids, cane rolls, man. That's what locks is in the Bible, where you braid it together, you lock it and unlock it. That's what it's called, locks. It's not talking about dreadlocks. Rastas have used Numbers 6 and used Indian culture to try and bring it all together. So when you see the red locks, you think Solomon had 10 thick booger dreads? What do they call them? You think Solomon had 10 dreads? Now pull me up in that book, page 229.
Braid.
Go ahead.
Plait, lock.
It is a what? A plait.
Plait.
So locks in Numbers, it's a it's a plait. It's not talking about dreadlocks, man. Give me Numbers 220. Give me page 229. Now we're gonna go back into the book. So now it said locks is braids, man. Read them highlighted parts for me.
Page 229. The word dreadlocks.
So now it's going to give you the origin of the word dreadlocks, of where it came from and how they named it. Go ahead.
The word dreadlocks is a good example. Until the end of the 1950s, most Rastas were beardmen.
Hold on. Until what?
1950s.
So listen, dreads for black people don't go back before the 50s. It got popular in the when was Bob Marley's time? The 60s. So it got popular with Bob Marley and the East Indians. Before that, these Rastas was beardmen. They had beards. These Rastas didn't have dreads. So dreads is a relatively new thing, which means dreads is less than 100 years old. Yeah, which is dreads is less than 60 years old, man. Dreads is less than 60 years old. With Samson had braids. These dreadlocks, it's a new thing. These dreadlocks ain't old. It's less than 60 years old, man. We're reading it here. East Indians came to 1800s. Rastas was beardmen before about the 50s. Go ahead.
But they still cut their hair.
And back then, they used to get their hair cut. Go ahead.
Some took the growing uncombed locks, like the Indian saddest.
So hold on. Some did what?
Took the growing uncombed locks.
So some took the uncombed locks. Now, like the Indian what? Saddest. So this is how dreads became about. They didn't comb their hair, and because they wanted to be like the East Indians, Samson had to obviously comb his hair to get braids. These lot here just named it the same thing because they read a bit of the Bible and they wanted a name for it. Go ahead.
All the Ethiopian guerrillas who took an oath not to cut their hair until Ethiopia was freed from the Italians. This
is when the Ethiopians went to war with the Italians. Go ahead. His name is Mussolini. This is when he went to war with Mussolini. His soldiers said they're not going to cut their hair until the war's over. So again, dreads was some these nappy hairstyles was from Ethiopians and East Indians. These Ethiopians, yeah, they didn't cut it because they was going to war, and they kept that nasty hairstyle, which means really they didn't want it. They just was in mourning and kept it due to the war. Go ahead.
It wasn't until the 1960s that locks became a more common style.
It wasn't what?
Until the 1960s.
So listen, dreadlocks became about in the 1960s, man. That's when dreads came about. Go ahead.
Jar Bones claims it was a fire key that the term dreadlocks came into being. Errol, Danny, Jimmy Parker, and I decided that dreadness was crucial to Rasta development.
Hold on, what did they call it first?
Dreadless.
They called it dreadless, man. It weren't called dreadlocks first. First, they called it dreadless. And the reason why people get thrown off with the word locks is because they see it in the Bible. So they think, okay, we can have dreads. No, man. The dreads came about in the 60s, which means they obviously read the Bible and named it after seeing things in the Bible, which is like now, they've seen a rainbow and they put LGBT and all of that on it when originally the two don't correlate. Locks and what these Rastas have, the two don't correlate. They're totally two different things. But obviously, if you haven't studied it, you wouldn't know. Go ahead.
God, non-Rasta Jamaicans would notice the new hairstyle of locks and became frightened and jumpy. It was rather interesting to I felt that the new hairstyle should get a name.
Hold on, the fact that what?
The hairstyle should get a name.
So now, they came about to name this hairstyle because they had no name for it at the time. They said dreads came about in the 60s. Samson's was called locks way back in BC because it means braids. So these Rastas had no name for their hairstyle, which came about in the 60s. Go ahead. So now they're thinking of a name for their thing. Go ahead.
I felt that the new hairstyle should get a name. A man suggested fear locks.
A man suggested what?
Fear locks.
So first I was going to call it fear locks because obviously they realized that people were scared of it because it was rough. Really, people just didn't want knits and seen it was unhygienic. That's probably why it was really. Go ahead.
And immediately the other four say no. I think Danny, who said, why not call it dreadlocks?
Why not call it what?
Dreadlocks.
Why not call it what?
Dreadlocks.
And this is how the name dreadlocks came about. They named this after the 60s. Before they had a few names to call it, he said, why not call it dreadlocks? And that's how they named it. This is how the name got about. Go ahead.
Since that sounds better, and according to the dictionary, it means fear, straight away the name was adopted.
Straight away the what?
The name was adopted.
Let me get one more thing out there. Oh, no, sir. What's it? Let me see. Give me... All right, then that's it. We'll wrap it up for time's sake. Nah, sorry, wrap it up for time's sake. This is the Lord's Prayer we have. So that's how dreads came about. That's how they got the name dreadlocks. They named it after the 60s. So when you read about Samson didn't have dreadlocks. And with that, that brings us to the end of the class. We are over the time, so we're going to do the Lord's Prayer, and then we out of here.
Okay. With the I.S.U.P.K started at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. I am commanding Gen.YAHANNA. Rule for a new brother and sister. But a new brother or sister coming to the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, Numbers 18:21, Malachi 3:10, means 10 from the Hebrew Ma'ashra, 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to the Treasury Department or the teacher. Pre-fund, not mandatory, whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations, the Passover, April the 20th at sundown, or after I've checked the hallway and check all I.S.U.P.K social media. If anyone wants to be a troop in the school, start wearing all black boots, shirt, pants, headband, and hairstyle. And with that, rise again, please.
You got on there, yeah.
Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Hayah, Shamkar, Yahweh, Malakavka, Taba'ah, Batazaka, Hayah, I.S.U.P.K, Ba'arakza, Kawa, Hayah, Bashamayim, Nafanana, Lakam, Cow, Yawam, Wasalakna, Kabawakna, Kasalakna, Kabawakna, Wala'ah, W.I.N. Wanasaya one, Abal, Hawashina, Mayan, Right, Kaya, Laka, Hamalaka, Waha Para, La Aman.
In the English, our Father, art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come,
thy
will be done, in earth,
as
it is in heaven. Give us this day,
our
daily bread,
and
forgive us our debts,
as
we forgive our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it.
With that, one can speak to the teacher, men of Israel. I Madam Shabbat, I Madam Barak, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai Brakatah,
Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai Brakatah.
Yajamata, class dismissed.